change that you saw. You mentioned climate change, and the state that you have recently visited, it has seen, several such incidents take place, warnings take place, and also several of our shrines are located in these very, very sensitive areas. What was your experience of that? Because this has been a very important issue of concern. While, of course, religion is important, everyone of different parts of the country wants to go there and visit, yet there is a sense that perhaps we may be pushing nature too far.
I wouldn't say that. See, what is missing is education, awareness. Just because there is a shrine there, it doesn't mean it must cause damage. Because there is a shrine, it must be protected, not damaged. But the incidents that people are talking about is about Kanti Sarovar opening up. If you do not know this, Kanti Sarovar is very sacred for people who are on the yogic path, because this is where the first yoga program happened. Between Adi Yogi and the seven Saptarishis, this is where the first teaching happened. So I've always been going to Kanti Sarovar. When this burst happened in 2013, I was not surprised because it's a glacial lake. It has to open up sometime, all right? Because the glacier is pushing the rubble and forming like a barrier, that rubble has to open up sometime. Maybe once in 100 years or 200 years, I don't know the geological process, but it has to open up sometime. I think because of lack of enough great glacial substance, it has been delayed. Otherwise, I would say every 30 to 50 years it may happen once in a way. But when that opened up, the problem is, I'm talking about somewhere in 80s when I was there, I'm seeing that people were building lot of new things in the valley where the water would come. And I was sitting there was a young army captain, they had just built a small dispensary to serve the tourists and stuff. They had also built little low. So I said, see, these people are building all over the place. Whenever Kanti Sarovar opens, they're all going to get washed out. But the Indian army should not build here. He said, no, we've looked at it, it's above the crest, but it was very close. I said, it's too close. You should be well above this line because when the water comes, it will come. I said this in 80s. Now in 2013 this happened and everybody is surprised. We must understand this is not a natural disaster, this is a natural process. Human beings being in the wrong place is a disaster.
Right. So it's a man-made disaster, would you say?
No, that is a natural process. See, an earthquake happens. People say it's a natural disaster. An earthquake is not a natural disaster, it's a natural process on the planet. It needs to happen, an earthquake needs to happen, a volcano needs to vent its heat. These are natural processes. Because of our population pressure, we are everywhere and we think it's a disaster. It is not really a natural disaster, it's a human disaster.
Okay. Another important… Welcome to this very special interview. We have with us a person who's very well renowned in the area of spirituality. He has, of course, spoken on several issues in the past. We'll be talking to him about a whole host of contemporary issues. But I want to first and foremost thank Sadhguru for joining us on the show today. My first question to you is that you've recently been on a tour of Uttarakhand, you've been to the Char Dham, and you've done all of this on two-wheeler. What inspired you to do this?
Well, this is a kind of a romance between the youngest mountains ranges on the planet. Probably most people do not know, Himalayas is the youngest mountain ranges on the planet. And human beings are the youngest species on the planet in many ways, though we've been quite a terrible species in many ways, even threatening Himalayas. So, this is a romance that started for me when I was 19 years of age. From the age of 19, for 27 years continuously I trekked in Himalayas. I was not in pursuit of any spiritual thing. At 19, I did not even know something like spiritual exists. I was more an adventure seeker than a spiritual seeker. So, I trekked and mostly alone at that time, almost all the time alone. Later on, in the last few years, I've been taking people. But 16 years ago, I stopped going to Indian part of Himalayas and I went to the other side. That the last 16 years I've been trekking in Nepal and Tibet. Because 16 years ago when I went there, the mountains that I have seen in all kinds of seasons, always snow-clad. 16 years ago, for first time I saw them bare and black. Somehow it broke my heart and I couldn't go there after that. I did not go to Himalayas for these 16 years. In 1980 or 81, I don't remember exactly, but 41 years ago, I rode on my motorcycle up this same routes. So now I decided to ride once again. So after 41 years, everybody was wondering, can I ride really like that? But look like I haven't lost a day, I'm riding as well or better. The machines are better, of course, now than what it was then.
Right, right.
At that time, like the machine was weak, it was a 250cc two-stroke engine. Machine was weak, but I was young and strong. Now the machine is fantastic. I am who I am, but it's working.
Great, 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 great. You mentioned a change that you saw. You mentioned climate change and the state. Another argument, and I'm just on this point of what the government is saying. They are saying that lower castes were allowed to enter temples after many years, and under the Dravidian rule, women, lower castes, etc., people were allowed as trustees, and all that may be undone if it is handed over to private.
Why should that be undone? It should not be undone. See, you're talking about a historical problem and saying that it will repeat itself in 21st century. No, it cannot repeat itself. Based on caste, creed, or even your political affiliations, nobody should become that. It is important how to administer this. Let's look at it in detail because it's a complex issue. I don't want to say something simplistic. I have thought through this, there are ways to do it. It is not an overnight solution, but will this lead to discrimination? Definitely not. Why discrimination happened is, it is not because the ownership of the temple used to be in the hands of the, whoever built the temple in those days. Usually large families or communities built the temples. So community temples were built for their purpose. So in that context, other people did not go there. It was not discrimination. It is like you go and sit in your office, somebody doesn't come and sit in your office. Just like that, it was built for that community because these are all Kula Daivatas and something like that. So, and also this discrimination, unfortunately, against the people that you call as lower caste or Harijan or Dalit or whatever, this is an unfortunate historic reality in our country. Unfortunately, still true in the social milieu of this nation. But should that manifest in temple entry? Definitely not. Today nobody can check who is who and nobody should check who is who. It's not your business. If somebody comes with devotion, it should be open. I'm saying not only to caste, even to religion. Let us say you are a Muslim or a Christian, but you feel like going to a temple, you must be able to go. Because right now, the same is available. If you are a Hindu, you want to go into a church or a mosque, you can go. The same thing can be done with a temple. These things have come more at one time as discrimination, it has happened definitely, we cannot deny the discrimination aspect, it's been there in our society. But at the same time it was also protection. There are incidents where people from other religion who believe idolatry is a wrong way of doing things, they have come and spat in the temples. So they put up boards, only Hindus can enter, all right? So these things are from another time. Today will some Muslim or Christian come and spit in the temple? They will not do that. This is from another time when the situation was completely different. Don't transpose that situation into today's reality and say the same things will happen. I am sure no Christian, no Muslim will come and spit in our temples. If they want to come, they will come out of genuine need, desire to come there. Similarly, discrimination against caste can be completely taken out, and it will be a very forward step for the entire society. When we enter the temple together, the sense of discrimination that may be still there in the rural societies can be obliterated in an effective way because we are going to the same temple. So it can be more of an instrument to eliminate the discrimination rather than establishing discrimination.
Right. I'm moving on to another subject and
One thing I would like to say, this is because this discrimination issue is coming up again and again because largely it is the Brahmin community which does puja in the temple. Why have they been doing puja? Because that community qualified itself to do that. There was a time only a Kshatriya could be in the army. You know the whole story of Karna and stuff like that, and because he's not a Kshatriya, he can't be in the army, those kind of things have always been there. So this caste system was a way of transferring skills also, which became discriminatory over a period of time. That's a different aspect. But today, if you join INDA or an officers training school, you can be in the army. So similarly, we must set up schools where you train. If you say Shiva temple, it's one kind of training, Vishnu temple, another kind of training, Devi temple, another kind of training. If you do 3 to 4 years of training, irrespective of your caste, you should be able to teach because you're qualified, all right? Because transference of skills happen only through family at one time. That is gone. Now there are institutions for everything. For this also you need to establish an institution.
Right. In Tamil Nadu, for instance, there were protests that you may have also seen in the news where there is an objection to the state government's restriction because certain days towards the weekend, there is this restriction on temples being opened. Do you think that that is a fair concern?
See, even our Dhyanalinga temple, which is a meditative temple, is also closed for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because that's the day the number of people come. We have a system, because there's a large premises, we have a system, we'll only allow that many people inside the temple to be seated. But still government's rules are general, they don't come and examine each individual temple. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, our temples are closed. But the outside aspect was open, even that is… it's an open air thing, Adiyogi is sitting in the open air. There is so much wide open land, people can come there and go, but because the government cannot be making separate laws for each person, Tamil Nadu government has had some trouble with Kerala being right next door and being a very concentrated COVID problem. It is very easily coming into Tamil Nadu, and even now, I think yesterday some 27 deaths or something are there. So I feel whatever the government does with the concern for people's health and well-being has to be respected. It is inconvenient for sure, but I think we should all be willing to go with it because it is a need of the hour. You can't just do something that you like personally.
And you think this is a tough challenge for governments because, you know, if they give in to this, they'll be accused of being too populist. If they don't do it, they'll be accused of being anti-people. So it's a very difficult
I do not envy the government's position, any government, state government or center. Whatever you do, somebody is unhappy. But I think Tamil Nadu government has, though it's a new government which has just come, the one part of the COVID problem was handled by the previous government and now this is being handled by this. I think they have done quite eminently well. It is not that there's a perfect solution for this, but in a nation like India with the concentration of population, especially Tamil Nadu, the concentration of population for its geographic space is very high. With that kind of population concentration, I think the state government has done a fantastic job. I have to say this, down to the last man. This is something spectacular for me in my perception because from a village accountant to a police constable to all these, you know, the first level of government officers who are there, who are always perceived to be corrupt, no good, this, that, they all did such a spectacular job. It is really… without all of them standing up as firmly as they did, we wouldn't have gone through this pandemic as we have gone through. We have done way better than societies which have humongous medical infrastructure and organization. In this country, anything you have to convey, you have to say it in 24 languages. I think we've done spectacularly well. I congratulate the governments, central government, state government, and above all, the government officials. I think they did a fantastic job.
Right.
I wish people had been little more enthusiastic about this cooperation, then we would have gone through it much more easily.